Hey guys, V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. So today, what we can talk about, well, what's going on in the economy, because it has a lot to do with what goes on with investing, with being an entrepreneur, with just, living your life. Now, if you like the content, then hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. Why not? Then you get notified when we put out some more content. So what's going on in this economy, right? I mean, you got the Federal Reserve. All right, they seemed like they went to sleep. You've got the stock market going through the roof, right? I mean, it's at all-time highs, all three indexes, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, right? The Dow, all hitting all-time highs. And that's really fantastic. But you also have interest rates, basically at 20-year highs. Right? And now that shouldn't really happen, right? Stock market up, same time the interest rates are up. And at the same time, our investment of choice, real estate, is also really, it hasn't really gone down that much. Well, some of this is due to, obviously, the market. There's a rally that kind of started in this market. It started I think it was like last year, really took fuel in October. And it has a lot to do with this AI, that they dropped on everybody last year. And so it's really fueling the market. All right. It's really pushing, but it's like, there's like 4 or 5 stocks that are really going through the roof, and then some smaller ones, and it's pushing the market. Well, that's great. All right. Now, if you're in the market, that's fantastic. But if you're into real estate, what's going on there? What's happening in that whole world? Because stock market helps your 401k go. It helps your IRAs go. That's all great. So when we're talking real estate, we're talking about the fact that it's really just coming true. Most of what I said 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago at least, is all happening. And I've had other videos as we've gone along talking about this, right? And that is, when the Fed started raising interest rates, when they started to move these rates up, we knew that this was going to take some time, that this wasn't going to be a real speedy process. It's not like when the Fed is concerned about a recession, okay, and they can come in and they can cut the interest rates and they can flood the economy with money, okay, with their quantitative easing, all right, and then they can, so you don't fight the Fed, and they're pushing that money in there. It can shut down a recession pretty quick. It can stimulate an economy pretty quick. I mean, this last go around has been insane, almost $7 trillion, right, somewhere in that area, all right? Now, it has a lot of stimulus. And that's what they're trying to fight right now. So when they started raising these interest rates, and we saw what started to happen, right? It's real estate slowed down, and we saw some pricing getting a little bit more soft. Now, I said that pricing would start to get soft, probably somewhere between 10 and 15% drop. Now, in some areas, we've had that. In other areas, we haven't. In the Middle West, we haven't had that much of a drop. Why? Because we don't get the run up like everybody else does in the West and in the Southwest and in the East Coast, okay, Southeast. They've had a much stronger real estate market over the years. So in the Middle West, you don't get that. You don't get the big drop, but you also, you're not getting that big jump when things are hot. All right. Now, in a lot of other areas, you're starting to get some softening happening. And I said this was going to take about 3 to 4 years. This was not going to be an overnight fix. Once the Fed decides they want to start to, kill the economy, and that's what they're doing, right? Slow that economy down. And it looks like they're doing that. Now, I don't know that there's so much killing the economy. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, only because of the fact that there's all this money that's moving around that they printed, right? Historic amounts of money. And they keep spending money, and they keep printing more money. The government just keeps spending. So when you have all this happening, it keeps the economy a lot stronger, even though the Federal Reserve is trying to slow it down. So you've got the fiscal policy and you have the monetary policy. Now, for many years, both have been running in the same direction. But the fiscal policy comes out of the White House. It comes out of Congress. It's the spending of the government. The monetary policy is the controlling of the currency through, stimulus, interest rates, quantitative easing, all these kind of things. Now, for many years, they've been running hand in hand. But now what's going on is that they're trying to fight each other. You've got the Fed. It's been raising interest rates. Now they've stopped for a while, and everybody's speculating, when are they going to cut the rates? And then you have the fiscal policy, which is, like I said, is the government trying to spend money because they want to keep, especially the White House, they want to keep this economy looking good. They've got an election coming up in a little bit, and they want to make sure that it looks good. So they just keep spending. At the same time, you got the Fed. Now, everybody was saying, all the geniuses, like I've talked about in the past, were saying that last year they were going to start cutting interest rates. Hell, they hadn't even stopped raising them, and people were talking about when they were going to start to cut them. Well, now you could fast forward, you're here. Oh, they're all just really surprised that the Fed did not state that they were going to cut interest rates in March. All right. Now, it's not March yet, but it's getting close. And we know they're not going to cut interest rates. They're actually getting a little bit concerned that maybe the Fed might actually raise rates again. Why? Because this economy is still staying strong, because this economy is still growing at a faster rate than they want it to do. They haven't slowed it down enough. All right. Now, I don't know that they're so much going to be raising interest rates. I think it's more that they're going to be just stalling on when they're going to do their first cut. They want to do a cut in order to help the economy after they've hit it so hard. Typically, what will happen is you'll go into a recession. And then once you're in that recession, then they start to lower the interest rates a little bit in order to keep things, moving along and not have that recession, crater out too deeply. Well, they're not seeing a recession. They're not looking at a recession right now. What they're seeing is just a continually strong economy. Yes, there's some weakness on the fringes. Things are happening. Yes, is it as strong as it was 6 months ago? No, but it's still too strong for what they've done. And how's that affecting you? Well, we know that your cost of living is still a problem. It's still going up, and that's a problem, right? It just costs more money to live. You go to the store, you go to the restaurant, you go, you're to buy a car, it's costing more money. Now, they're saying it's only going to be costing you 3% or 3.5%, where they say inflation right now is somewhere around 3.5%. Does it feel like that? No, it doesn't. Now, you might be asking, so what does all this have to do with real estate? Well, because there is a situation going on here where at some point they will start to lower interest rates and they'll start the whole cycle all over again. But I don't see that happening really that soon. It might be, another 4, 5, 6 months. And then or it may not be at all this year. We just don't know. Why? Because they don't like to, if it gets too close to the election, they don't want to cut interest rates because then they're thinking they're interfering with the election. That the Federal Reserve is then starting to play politics. So if they don't start cutting interest rates by June or July, it's not likely that you're going to see a rate cut before November. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means we stay in the same place we're at, this stagnation of real estate, where who wants to go out there and buy a house or buy an apartment building when the numbers aren't working, when the interest rates are this high? And again, historically, these are not high interest rates, but they are relative to recent history. They're relative to the movement in the price of real estate over the last 5 to 10 years, right? Real estate prices skyrocketed because of low interest rates. Because when people buy stuff, they buy it based upon the monthly payment. And so even though the price of the property was higher, with the lower interest rates, it still made it affordable. Now that's becoming a problem. Yes, there are still double incomes, kids, we used to call them dinks, people that are out there and they're still buying. They're still, but really the competition right now for housing is because there's not enough houses for sale. And so you're having this slowdown in real estate because of the lack of housing for sale. Now, we are also seeing that the number of contracts being put on homes has dropped and the number of contracts for new construction has dropped. All these things are happening. And the problem with real estate is there's such a lag. It lags, tremendously compared to the stock market. News comes out, stocks go up or they go down immediately. Real estate, it's a different game. But you see, that's why it's such a great game, because you don't have to sit there with your finger on the button as to whether or not you're going to buy a stock or sell a stock based upon the last 2 minutes of news. Remember, I told you, real estate's very slow to go up. It's very slow to top out. It's very slow to roll over. It's very slow to go down. And then it's very slow at the bottom, getting ready to go back up again. But you see, that's why it's so much more stable than the stock market. That's why it's so much more stable and a much more stable way in which for you to create wealth, for you to get into something that over time will make you a wealthy person, that will make you rich. Why? Because it requires you to think. It requires you to think, to put together a plan, and then real estate will not make you rich overnight. It just doesn't. It will make you rich over time, but it will keep you rich. It will keep you wealthy. It will keep you on track. Are there soft times in the real estate market? Yes, we're going through one right now. But they thought at the same time that rents were going to drop tremendously. In a few areas, rents have gone down, but most areas, if you've owned rental property, your rents have not gone down. In fact, this spring, you're probably raising the rent. Now, can you raise the rent 10 and 15% like you did in the past? No, but you're going to get that 2-3% increase. You're going to raise it up by $50, $75, and nobody's going to move for $50 or $75. People just don't do that. It costs too much money to move for $50 a month increase. And so it's a much more stable type investment. And so how do you do this? How do you move forward in this kind of economy? That becomes the question. Well, what I've been telling people and what I've been telling you guys is that you want to get out there. You want to know the market. The steps you got to take are understand there's several different steps you got to do all at the same time. You got to understand your personal financial situation. You know you have to do that. What is your job? How long you've been on it? They want you to have at least 2 years of employment, basically in the same field. It doesn't have to be in the same company, but you want to have it in the same field. What is your income? What's your current income to debt ratio? What do you got in credit cards? What do you got in car loans, student loans? What does that all look like? Because they have an overall debt ratio to income, and then they include what they'll let you borrow, based upon your income and your other debts for a mortgage. So you got to understand all of this when it comes to you personally. Now, if your personal situation is dire in the sense of, you got the student loans, you got the car payment, blah, 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 well, then you got to find some other monies to buy. And that might be, parents, brothers, sisters, relatives. In the beginning, it's called friends and family. Why is it friends and family? Because they're the people that are going to be most willing to give you an opportunity, to give you a leg up. Now, you might say, well, I know there's people out there that'll say to me, well, I don't have any family and I don't have any friends. I don't know what to tell you. All right, get some friends, get some family, get some people, right? People will help you. Now, these are the same people that are going to be like shaking their head, figuring that you're going to fail. I get it. That's just the nature of it. But they're also the same people that are going to give you the down payment money or help co-sign a mortgage with you in order to get you to start. I know. It's a conundrum. Who would ever figure? The people that are going to, that they're going to give you the greatest amount of doubt in your life are also the people that will support you. It's just the way it works. Now, so if you personally are not in that position, then find some people that can help you. So you want to get your finances in order. You want to talk to a mortgage person. You got to do this kind of stuff because it's coming, folks. The opportunities are going to come. Maybe it's you and 2 or 3 buddies together and you're going to pool some money. Maybe you don't have the money, but they've got the money, but you've got the time. What are your resources? Understand your resources, gather your resources, and move them in the proper direction. That's how this game works. And why do I call it a game? Because you got to get into it. You got to play in order to succeed. It's just the way it works. If you don't, you can read all the books on real estate. You can listen to all the videos. But if you don't get into it, It's not going to matter. And so I want you to start taking those steps. First step, understand your personal finance situation. If you've got credit issues, then get the credit issues fixed. Call a credit repair company. I mean, there's some good ones out there. One I used, and they're not sponsoring me. I don't, but I had used them at one point, and it was McCormick, a law firm named McCormick. You can get them on the internet. They were very good. I had to stay on top of them. I had to push them. Okay, and then why? Because I hadn't borrowed money in years. And when you don't borrow money in years, your credit goes down. I had a couple of late payments because I wasn't paying attention over many years. And boom, all of a sudden you don't have much of a credit score. But you can get that thing fixed really fast by hiring a credit company, credit repair company. But you must stay on top of them, because the longer it takes for them to fix your credit, the more you're paying them, the longer you're going to pay them. It kind of works that way. So you got to be calling them as much as they're trying to deal with your creditors. So you got to make sure you're covering all your bases. You got to spend this time putting some dollars together. If you don't have a down payment, you remember, if it's your first property, you want to get into a single family and then use it as a rental. You want to get into a duplex or a triplex. You got to get a down payment together. Well, if I'm telling you maybe this isn't the best time to necessarily go out and buy, I get it. There's guys out there, ladies out there. It's always a good time to buy. They'll tell you, buy. Well, it's not the best time to buy. And so get out there and pull some money together. Get another side gig. Start driving Uber. Start driving Lyft, Grubhub, whatever. Put some money together. You're going to only need 3.5% down for the down payment if you're going to go FHA. Yes, there's some closing costs. So all in, you're probably talking about 5-6%. Put some money together. Change the way you're looking at your life. Are you throwing money away? Are you always going out and partying? There is no moving forward without taking the right action and adjusting some of the actions that you've been taking. This is some basic information that I hope will help you in and how you're thinking as much as what you're doing. Because the way you're doing it now is because of the way you think now. If we can change some of the way you think, you'll change what you're doing. Does that make sense? So let's get out there. Let's look at our financial situation. Let's understand that. Let's make the changes there we need to make in order to move forward. Then part of that getting and looking at that is talking to a loan officer, all right? A mortgage person. You can just call them loan officers, mortgage person. So contact a mortgage person, get a referral, work with a mortgage person. Now, again, maybe your first property is going to be the one you're going to live in. If you're going to go FHA, you got to live in it first year anyways. That doesn't mean you can't hack the house a little bit. You can't rent out some of the bedrooms to some friends or whatever. That's what, definitely. But at the end of that year, you get to go do it all over again. But you got to get started. You got to get moving forward. So you want to talk to a loan person about how your personal finances, how they're going to fit into those requirements to get a mortgage. That's a really good direction. Why? Because as I've been talking about this economy, jobs are still good. There's plenty of jobs, plenty of opportunities. Even though they're trying to slow this economy down, wages are high as they've ever been. And I get the inflation's there, all right? But the wages have also gone up. So put some money together, get this process moving, then get out there and start looking at some properties. Now, do you want to walk into, I recently was looking at a house in the area I'm in. It was 1,000 square feet, literally at just 1,000 square feet. It was like $250,000. It was built probably in the 60s. I mean, they had it all clean. They had some new flooring down. It was small, but it was nice. All right, it was nice. Now, there was some hidden stuff where they painted rotted trim, things like that. We're like, come on. Anyhow, the problem with this property was you couldn't make any money on this property. Or somebody had already fixed it up for 1,000 square feet. You were paying through the nose, at least top dollar. And there was no place to add value. One of the things you want to start to do is look at property from a standpoint of when you walk into that property, how can I add value? Because by adding value, you raise value. By being able to put a third bedroom into a 2-bedroom house, you raise the value. Now, am I saying put an addition on the house? No. But sometimes, I had a house one time where the living room was 2/3 of the house practically. I mean, it was huge, but it was a 2-bedroom house. So I cut a whole part of the living room out, put in a small hallway, and had a third bedroom. That raised the value of that house tremendously. So you're looking for ways in which to add value. Are you getting it at a good price and it needs a new kitchen, all right, or the bathroom, right? That's what we talk about all the time. Kitchens and bathrooms that raise the value of a property more than anything else, except adding another bedroom. And so by being able to do some of those things, add value. So when you walk into a property, are you going to be doing structural work? Are you going to be doing roofing, fixing foundations? That does not add value under most circumstances. All right, it doesn't, because a house is supposed to have a good roof. A house is supposed to have a foundation that isn't all cracked up or leaning. A house is already supposed to have decent windows. Now, replacing windows can be fine as long as when you bought the property, you got the right price so you could replace the windows. There's nothing even wrong with replacing a roof as long as you're not paying top dollar for it and then replacing the roof. You're not adding any value. It's supposed to have a good roof. And so look for areas in which you can add value. Now, sometimes you can do it just by repainting and, resurfacing hardwood floors if they're in there, or putting down new carpet or whatever it is, or putting down, the clip-in flooring. But as long as you're not paying, top dollar, and then you got to go do the work. Well, that's ridiculous. So these are the things you should be thinking about. So when you're going through a piece of property, start to look at it with an eye of an investor. I know that's going to be the first house you may move into, but you're only going to be there for a short period of time. You always want to buy your first house from the perspective of it's going to be a rental. Now, that's some pretty big information right there. You want to look at the house based upon the perspective that it's going to be your first rental, which means it's not your freaking dream house. It's just going to be your first rental. I did that with my house. I know you guys are going to roll over. It was about an 800 square foot house. I paid $33,000 for it in 1982. But from redoing that house, because I got it at a good price. And this is when interest rates were at 16.5%, and I had a 10% interest rate on the mortgage where the seller held the paper for 5 years. And so then I refinanced it. But my point is that from that one house, I was able to roll that forward, equity, debt, everything, into over $2 million worth of real estate. That's right. So you can do the same thing. This isn't overly difficult, but you got to start at it. You got to understand there's some basic steps. So one is getting your credit, understanding your credit, understanding your financial condition. The other is being able to recognize what a good deal is. If you just go buy a piece of property and you buy the wrong one, what are you going to do with that? That is just a direction for total and complete failure. And so you want to be able to have that scenario where you can walk into a property and you can say, man, that's a good deal. Why is that a good deal? Let me give you an example. My son out in San Diego, he bought a house. It was like a tri-level, a big tri-level house. All right. They paid through the nose for it, close to $1 million. And so, but it had an in-law arrangement. So what he did was he remodeled the in-law arrangement completely. And then he fixed up the other part of the house as much as he could. He moved into the in-law arrangement with his wife. They moved into the in-law arrangement, which was everything brand new. He redid the whole thing. He had a nice bedroom, big living room, attached to the kitchen, like an L-shaped type thing. Obviously, full bathroom. And then it had a big screened-in porch type thing. And if you're living in San Diego, that might as well be part of the house. That's just part of the house. So, but then he rented out the other part of the house. So what he's doing with that is that that's paying the entire mortgage. On top of it, it had solar panels on it. So he doesn't even have an electric bill, right? There's always ways to house hack. There's always ways to do. Even if you're sitting in California where it's a fortune, right? Now, yes, they had to qualify for the mortgage and blah, 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 and all that stuff. But how many people you know that are living in San Diego and it didn't cost them a dime? There's always a direction you can do. You don't have to start from the top. You can start with your first house. That's what we're talking about here. So find the value. You see, when he walked in there, he could see the value. Okay, he understood value because he grew up in the household, in my household. He's my kid. He understands value. I want you to be able to walk into a piece of property like he did and be able to see value. Now, yes, you're not going to sit there and say, I was raised by a real estate guy. I get it. But this isn't rocket science. Just when you're looking at properties, when you're seeing what you're seeing, as a turnkey and there's nothing you can do to it. Now, turnkeys, if you're getting it at a big discount, but turnkey is not good if you're paying top dollar and there's no way to add any value. So adding value to real estate is one of the most important aspects of investing in real estate. So understand that. Start watching these programs. I get it on HGTV and all these programs. Some of them are stupid. I understand. But some will show you. They open up your eyes to what can be done, especially the ones where they're not spending a ton of money. Now, you're not going to get it done in 1 hour in a 1 hour TV show, right? Doesn't work that way, only on TV. But you can see what they're doing relative to opening up spaces. One thing I rarely will ever recommend is you give up a bedroom for open space. When I see that on these shows, it just rolls I just roll my eyes. All right. Because when you give up bedrooms, you give up value. So be careful of that. Be very, very careful. Now, if it's a 4-bedroom and you're talking to a 3, well, that might be a different story. But you never want to go from a 3 to a 2, and you never want to go from a 2 to a 1, no matter how much extra living room space you have. Because it's the bedrooms that add the real value. So that's just kind of a side note. All right, so you're understanding real estate, right? You're understanding value. Also, at the same time, you've got to be understanding where it is that you're going to invest in real estate. What neighborhood? What area do you live in? Is it the area you currently live in? Theoretically, they always say, don't buy real estate for investment purposes now or future investment purposes unless it's like about no more than about a half an hour to 40 minutes from your house. Because when you have to go there in the beginning, when you're managing the property, you don't want it to have to spend the whole day. So 30 minutes gets you probably somewhere around what? Almost a 40-mile radius, depending upon where you live. Now, I get it if you're in the city, that might be 4 blocks over. Might be faster to walk. Right? So you got to adjust for that. But then again, you have a whole lot more housing per square foot or mile or block than you do in the suburbs and in the small towns. So allow for that. So you want to become an expert in the area in which you want to invest in. And then you want to make sure that it's the area that is best to invest in. Right? Understand, what is the crime rate? Is the crime rate rising or dropping? That's really important in what's going on today, right? I mean, so there's all the websites out there that you can go to that will allow you to understand. Is the area growing or shrinking? Are you seeing stores closing down? Are they opening up? Are they building opening up new Starbucks? Or are they closing Starbucks? These are the things you want to be able to determine as to if it's a good area for you to invest in. So understand your criteria first, and then, you already know the area because you live in the area, right? And understand what it is. Now, if you're living on an area that's not such a great area, let's say it's in the west side of Chicago, then the question is, where's the gentrification taking place? Where's that line, that demarcation line? So you want to be close to that demarcation line. So as the gentrification moves close to you, you then become consumed by that gentrification. You're already there. Your value goes up. You don't want to go as far away as possible from the gentrification. And I get it. It has a bad name to it because it dislocates existing people and all of that. But there's a thing called progress. What are you going to do? Right? You just want to buy just in front of that gentrification because then you're getting good pricing. You know the area. You live there. But just don't buy it far from it. It doesn't help you. So look at all these kind of factors. Bottom line is understand what, let's recap these last 3 things I talked about. You're going to understand your personal financing relative to buying a house and how that all works. And then you're going to have a plan as to improve that, whether it be to improve it from a credit standpoint, income standpoint, and that's going to incorporate using a loan officer, using credit repair if you need it, and then getting side jobs or whatever you have to do in order to put money together, right? Then you're going to understand what value is on a house and on property, because you're going to get out there and you're going to start looking at these properties. You're going to start to understand what value is, and then what you need to do to increase the value, and what is the cost effectiveness of that increase. You don't want to be, just replacing windows. That's not going to get you any more rent. Yeah, they say, oh, those are nice windows. They don't really give a shit. It's not going to change your rent, right? So you're going to be looking for properties where you can put the money you're going to spend on it, the improvements that it needs. We used to call it cosmetic, right? Now, I'm not talking about putting lipstick on a pig here. I'm not talking about that, because that means that you bought something that's a real dump and you're just trying to throw some paint on it. It's still a dump. No, you want to buy something that is stable, something that is structurally sound, but needs some improvements. You can see where to add the value. And then the third thing is in this is to go out and understand the marketplace. Are you in a growing marketplace? Is it a shrinking marketplace? Is it where you want to be to have your first property, or your second, your third? Okay? These are the things you have to really understand. These are three things. And I started this video out talking about the economy, because right now you still have the opportunity to go out there. When real estate agents are happy to show you properties, they're going to help you get what they call pre-qualified, and it's going to help you down that road. Because once you get pre-qualified in this process, then you're going to know some of where your deficiencies are or what you can do to improve those deficiencies. So think about these last three things and understand, because of the way this economy is working, because the Fed is going to be very slow in cutting interest rates, this real estate market is going to stay in this kind of a stalled period. Yes, prices could get a little bit softer, but there's such a lack of housing in this country that it may not be that much softer. It just might be that what you want to do is understand that when the Fed starts to really cut interest rates, that's when a new cycle is going to start. And you want to get in just before that, or as that's happening. But you got to get your ducks in order. Let's get these first three things understood and be working on them. Your personal finance situation, understanding value in real estate that you want to be looking at, the properties you're looking at, and understanding the market which you're going to invest in. Start there, but think big, start now, and grow fast. V. Ragone, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. Hey, and let's hit the like button. Let's smash on that subscribe button. Talk to you soon. Let's get out there. Let's make it happen.